So, what do an F-35 fighter jet, a Virginia-class nuclear submarine, and a Tomahawk cruise missile all have in common? It's not just that they're the cornerstones of America's military. It's that none of them can work without rare earth elements. And guess who controls the vast majority of these critical materials? China. This is the shaky ground we're on right now. The US military is facing a quiet crisis, a hidden weakness that could render its best and most expensive assets ineffective. And the kill switch is held by its biggest strategic rival. The threat from China's chokehold on a little-known group of materials called rare earth elements is so much bigger and so much more immediate than you think. Let's just run the numbers because they're staggering. A single F-35 jet needs over 900 pounds, that's more than 400 kilograms, of rare earth materials to get off the ground. They're absolutely essential for its advanced radar, electronic warfare systems, targeting pods, and the powerful magnets inside its engine. But it gets much, much deeper. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the workhorse of the US Navy, requires about 5,200 pounds of the stuff. A Virginia-class submarine, one of the most complex machines ever built, needs a stunning 9,200 pounds of rare earths for its sonar, electric motors, and guidance systems. We're not talking about minor parts here. These elements are the irreplaceable heart of modern military tech. They allow magnets to function under blistering heat. They give life to high-energy lasers, and they guide smart bombs with surgical precision. The issue isn't just that the US needs these materials, it's where they come from. China doesn't just dig most of them out of the ground. More importantly, it completely dominates the much more difficult and valuable stage of processing and refining them. Globally, China controls nearly 90% of the processing. And for the really critical heavy rare earths, the ones vital for top-tier defense technology, that number is basically 99%. This isn't a simple supply chain issue, it's a strategic chokehold. In December 2023, China banned the export of key technologies used for extracting and separating rare earths, making it much harder for other nations to build their own capabilities. Then in early 2025, China imposed export controls on 7 key rare earth elements, including dysprosium, terbium, and samarium. These materials are essential for heat-resistant, high-performance military-grade magnets. Now companies must apply for government licenses to export these elements from China, with national security cited as the reason. The result is growing uncertainty, delayed shipments, and the slow squeeze of America's defense supply chain. The kill switch is being tested. So how did the United States end up here? It goes back to the 1980s, when China made a strategic bet. Rare earths aren't especially rare, but separating them from ore is dirty, expensive, and highly polluting. China subsidized production, used cheap labor, and ignored environmental regulations, driving competitors, like America's Molycorp, out of business. Molycorp's Mountain Pass mine, once the world leader, went bankrupt in 2015. While the West saw a toxic, low-margin industry, China saw leverage. Deng Xiaoping summed it up clearly. The Middle East has oil. China has rare earths. And China built an integrated system, from mining to high-performance magnet manufacturing, now supplying over 90% of the world's output. The US is finally waking up. Since 2020, the Pentagon has invested over $439 million into rare earth production, calling it a top priority. MP Materials, which revived the Mountain Pass mine, is now producing ore and testing magnet manufacturing in Texas. Australia's Linus Rare Earths, with US support, is building processing facilities here too, but it's not nearly enough. MP's new plant aims for 1,000 metric tons of magnets per year. China made 300,000 in 2024. The Pentagon alone needs 3,000 annually. Even more troubling, these efforts focus mostly on light rare earths. The critical heavy elements for military use are still almost entirely refined in China. While Linus recently produced some outside China, the quantities are small and years away from meeting demand. Building a full supply chain, from mine to magnet, is slow, expensive, and hampered by environmental hurdles. The US is trying to catch up in a few years to an industrial ecosystem China spent 4 decades perfecting. Now imagine a military crisis in the Indo-Pacific. America needs to replace jets, missiles, and submarines fast. But it can't. Beijing halts magnet exports, and the supply chain collapses. Production at Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and General Dynamics grinds to a halt. Yes, existing weapons will still work, but resupplying for a prolonged conflict? That's another story. This is how supply chains become weapons, crippling an opponent without firing a shot. This isn't just about magnets or missiles, it's about global power. America's strength came from industrial dominance. China now controls the raw materials that underpin it. The rare earth threat is real, immediate, and strategic. The United States is moving, but not fast enough, and the gap between where we are and where we need to be is still dangerously wide. The question isn't if this will be exploited, but when, and what the cost will be when it is. To learn about other tactics China is employing, check out our deep dive in the video, How China Controls the World's Most Powerful Resources, available here on the screen. Thanks for watching.